What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, welcome to the Turbo and 2K show, where we give you our amateur take on everything sports and 2Ks. Been looking forward to this show for all week because this is one of my favorite times of year, March Madness. It's both awesome and frustrating and fuck Ohio State. And did I say that out loud? But I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that muttered those statements after that game. But yeah, let's, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching on the YouTube side, there's not going to be any flashy frames or anything like that because this episode is dedicated to March Madness. So it's going to be an easy show, but a fucking exciting one because you might as well get locked in because you have found the Turbo and 2K show. Oops. All right. Well, that's not going to work. So never mind that. But yeah, let's do the box score. You know, if you guys are listening on the audio side, go ahead and subscribe or follow, which 2Ks, I didn't know this was a thing. But when people hear the word subscribe, they think it costs money. Because like a magazine subscription, you know, your streaming subscription. So follow us on where you're getting your audio. And if you're on YouTube, you're still subscribing, you're still liking, and you're still commenting. And yes, if you do comment, we will feature you on the show and try to answer your questions. So if you have any questions, let us know. Give us your input, ladies and gentlemen, because everyone has a take on March Madness, and I want you to get your take heard. So hold on one second while we get this. Where's the comments? There we go. Bring the comments up here. So if you are watching live, drop a comment, and we will get to it. So 2Ks, let's start off kind of, you know, first off, how is Mrs. 2Ks?
Good. A lot better now.
Good.
The shot number 2, as far as the vaccine goes, it put her down for the count for about 3 days.
And that's kind of common. I mean, you know, different people take it different ways, but yeah, it's definitely not unheard of, but we're glad. We sent our thoughts to Mrs. 2Ks last week, so.
Yeah, I was not going to leave her alone with our 3 kids for.
No.
It would not have went over very well.
No, that's one of those things. Happy wife, happy life. And but yeah, I did want to get that out there just in case people were wondering. And yeah, Joe, we're glad you're feeling better. But I had the bright idea to take Thursday and Friday off of work. It's been my bucket list thing to just sit around and watch basketball all day for 2 days. And little did I know, I didn't check the schedule because Thursday they were all night games, which sucks because in years past, you know, Thursday at noon, everything tips off. I had, since you weren't here last week, I found which I'll have to make us some of these wings. Oh my God. Because you and I are breaded wing guys. Yeah. Breaded wing guys. Well, there's this there's this girl that we watch. Actually, we watched her this morning. It's a Girl Meets Farm or something like that on the Food Network, and she's this little tiny petite little thing. Man, does she know how to cook fried chicken? So definitely something awesome. I had wings. I had everything for the brine and the batter. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be awesome. Well, I had to wait till Friday to make them, but they were still very, very good.
Yeah.
But
Well, you had the post on Facebook yesterday.
yeah,
Wings or tacos? Which one are you going with?
Oh,
I
I'm
think
going wings.
it's wings all day. I don't even think there's a. It's not even close. There's no argument.
even though they're
And I love me some tacos.
oh,
Don't
me
get
too,
me wrong.
me too. And you could, I mean, there's different varieties of each one, so you're not going to get bored. But give me wings.
Yeah.
Give me wings.
Yeah.
And then I'm one of those guys. I will wait until I'm done eating wings and have my face just all smeared, even in public. I don't care. I don't care. But yeah, it was definitely an awesome Friday. But let's start on Thursday because that's when the playing games were, and usually the playing games are kind of snoozers, and not this one. And Mr. Izzo's run ended shortly. And to be honest with you, 2Ks, I mean, it's kind of the a whole microcosm of how their season went, if you think about it. What were they leading by 11 at halftime and ended up coughing that up and going to overtime, which I really didn't even deserve to go to overtime, and ended up losing. And that was, like I said, it's kind of Izzo's season all wrapped up into one. Yeah, they started out great, then they sucked. Then they had played a 2 or 3 really good games in a row, and then they sucked, and then they kind of backed into. I mean, they didn't they backed into the tournament, and a lot of people think they shouldn't even have been there to begin with. So, was it a shocker? No. As a Big Ten fan, I mean, I wanted to see him go on.
Yeah.
Especially, which is weird. Why would I never really understood why they have an 11 seed in a playing game. To me, you should have all the playing games, the 16 seed.
And it used to be for so long it was just one playing game. I mean, or 2 playing games, and they both were to get a spot with the 16 seed. Now I just think it's I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. I don't like how the entire Thursday was wrapped around just these 4 playing games. Not a fan.
Oops, sorry here.
And it was just, I think that they kind of went with this Michigan State UCLA playing. It was to try to draw a drawing game. I mean, you have 2 blue bloods as far as
iconic.
Yes, college basketball programs, and you have them. And either team, I don't think is really that great. Or I mean, UCLA is kind of maybe showing us that they're a little bit better than what a lot of us were giving them credit for. But I don't know. I wasn't a fan of them playing in a playing game. And personally myself, I mean, I know a lot of people could say they didn't think Michigan State belonged. I thought Michigan State belonged to be in that tournament without having to be in the playing game.
Right, and I'm right there with you. Like I said, I really don't understand the 11 seed playing. I'm sure there's someone that's going to comment in the comments, "Oh, Ryan, oh my God, you're fucking stupid. This is the reason why." Please do, because I never really got it. Like 2K said, when the playing game started, these were for like the last 4 teams to get in. There was 2 playing games. That's the whole reason of the playing game. That's what I thought. And then all of a sudden, everything switched, and I'm like, "What?" I didn't get the memo. So, but yes, we're going to get into our bracket challenge. Kind of give you an update on that. Actually, let's do that right now before we move into the meat and potatoes before I forget. And wow, my brackets suck. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that wants to light their brackets on fire. However, if I do that, I'm going to light my phone on fire. Let's see here. Exit. We have Mr. Rich Thornburg and your dad, Troy, with 250 points. And you're not too far behind. You were
230.
You were leading there for quite a while. Quite a while. I think up until last night. And I've got 2 brackets. Actually, all 3 of my brackets are at 220. So I'm not dead in the water quite yet. Not dead in the water quite yet. And I have, out of my 3, I think, one of the few that has Baylor winning it. So that's kind of where I'm putting all my eggs in that basket, just to kind of differentiate myself from everybody else. Because it seems like, just kind of taking a look, Illinois is the predominant favorite for everybody, I think. And second of all, I want to thank everyone that did drop a bracket in here. We have 28 total brackets. And I'm sorry, Tammy. I have a feeling your bracket isn't going too far because you had Ohio State winning it, which we'll get to here in a moment. But I did want to kind of highlight who's on top right now. But like I said, 2Ks, with these brackets, who's up there right now, that's not in stone.
Mm-hmm.
That's not in stone. That could, especially with, I don't want to throw shade, but we're watching the Illinois game right now, and they're not looking so hot right now. So if Illinois happens to go down, a lot of these brackets will change greatly. But I do have Michigan winning one, Baylor winning one, and Illinois winning one. So, and I got to give it to Michigan. They played extremely well. They, as far as I watched a lot of basketball this weekend. A lot of basketball, and I'm obviously not done watching basketball this weekend, but they were probably one of the best overall teams, even without Livers on, obviously on the floor. Defensively, I mean, they shared the ball well, they shot well. I was very impressed. I actually,
and they were able to conserve a lot of their guys too. Yes. Also, I mean, I think because they normally play, especially when they were kind of coming down the stretch of the regular season, they were playing a lot of kind of basically a 7-man rotation. Yesterday, I think we saw 9. Possibly 10 different players,
and they all contributed.
Yes, and everybody was able to play. You talk about Johns Jr. He's the one that stepped into the starting role after Livers goes down. I thought he was looked very promising yesterday. So
yeah, I was very pleased. Because when you lose a player of Livers' ability, I mean, it can go either way. It could go like it did, and everyone stepped up a little bit to make, because you're obviously not going to replace him. I mean, that's
he's the most irreplaceable player on their team.
Exactly.
I mean,
either him or Smith. Is it Smith's the point guard?
Yeah.
I love watching that kid play. But you're right. Those two guys, in my opinion, are the keys to that team. But everyone stepped up and everyone contributed, and it was, like I said, probably one of the most well balanced games I saw so far this weekend. So, and yes, I did 2Ks. Bless you.
Sorry.
Bless you. I'm dabbling into the sports book realm of things here, and I decided to go with DraftKings, just because I've used DraftKings in the past for, all of their services, and there's so many. Like if you watch any TV, there's so many ads for different sports books, because now obviously it's legal in Michigan. And you can do it. Well, it's always been legal. You just had to go to the casino to do it. And now they're letting you do it via the app. And dabbled. I'll be completely transparent. I threw $25 at it. I was like, you know what? I've spent $25 on dumber shit. I figured, well, why not? And when it came to the Michigan game, obviously, Michigan was a very heavy favorite. I was like, well, you know what? I was frustrated with the Big Ten. The Big Ten hadn't had a really great showing so far. And without Livers, I was like, you know what? If you're giving me 17-1, I'll throw $5 at it. I'll throw $5. And you know what? I wasn't mad about losing the $5. But I did want to just be like, you know what? Especially if you're giving me 17-1, yeah, I'll definitely throw $5 at it. But as it sits right now, my $25, I'm sitting at about $54. So not too bad, not too bad. And now just this morning, I figured out how to parlay. So
yeah,
that's what
I've been doing.
Yeah, that's when you can turn a lot of the favorites into, when you're getting, very, very low return on your odds, you can parlay and turn those into even bigger odds. So finally figured that out. So I think moving forward, either my $54 is going to earn me, I see you have it on your phone as well, and either my $54 is gonna get me give me a pretty good clip, or we're going to be back down to zero. But you know what? That's what sports. That's the fun of sports betting. And you know what? Like I said, I'm over double my money, so we'll see how it goes. See how it goes.
Yeah, the one I lost on big, or not lost on big, because it was like I think it was a $10 bet that I did for on a parlay, and it was Friday night. I had Rutgers winning over Clemson.
Mm-hmm. I picked that one.
I had Wisconsin over North Carolina.
I picked that one.
I had Oklahoma State over Liberty.
Yeah, I picked that
and
one.
then I had Winthrop being able to cover on Villanova. And it was a 6.5, and Winthrop ended up losing by 8. And that would have been, so I lost $10 on that. But if Winthrop would have been able to cover on that, it was like $230 or something like that.
5-game parlay, yeah. But the one I lost the biggest on was Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they didn't even fucking show up.
Yeah.
I mean,
terrible.
That was probably one of the I changed that probably midway through the first half, and it was they were losing by 20 pretty much the whole game, which is kind of sad because I'm a big Patrick Ewing fan. I think he's going to do great things there. I think maybe his program was a little bit ahead of schedule, but you never know, and I have a feeling they will be back. So, big ups to Georgetown. But 2Ks, let's address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room. And I'm going to preface it with, do you remember, this had to be 6 or 7 years ago, maybe even longer, Warren Buffett put out a $1 million bounty for a perfect bracket. Do you remember this?
Uh-oh.
No? And obviously, we're hitting on a touchy subject because something is on fire. So, but luckily it's not the studio that I know of, so I think we're safe. But for those of you that don't remember, we all know who Warren Buffett is, right? Multi-gazillionaire. Well, I want to say partnered with like Quicken Loans or something, and he put out a bounty that, and it was free to enter. All you had to do was enter your bracket, and if you ended up with a perfect bracket, you win $1 million. Win $1 million. So I remember putting my bracket in. You're always super confident, always super confident. And the first game Thursday morning was Ohio State, and I cannot remember who they played. But this is back when Aaron Kraft was their point guard. So kind of give you, even though it seemed like Aaron Kraft was there for 25 years.
Forever, yeah.
But just to kind of give you a timeline here. And Ohio State, I want to say, was either a first or a number 1 or number 2 seed. I can't remember. They were very, very highly. They had a really good team that year. And Aaron Kraft blows the fucking game. And 98% of people's brackets were busted with the very first game on Thursday. The similarities between that situation and what happened with Ohio State this year, very similar. Very similar. And like you and I were talking before we went live, was, if I remember the stat correctly, there was over 12 million brackets submitted to ESPN. And 80% or 85% had Ohio State winning. And after the first day, there was only 180 brackets that were still perfect. And now there's none. There's absolutely none that are perfect. Which, with the landscape of this year's tournament, I'm honestly surprised there was 180 after week one. But what did you see? Did Ohio State just have a bad day? I really couldn't put my finger on it, because you would think that the Big Ten, especially with every game being in Indiana, most of the Big Ten guys have played in these arenas. Mm-hmm. They're comfortable. They're the shooting background they're used to. So I think ultimately the Big Ten kind of has an edge on that with all the other teams coming in. But that's neither here nor there. But they looked out of sorts.
They did. They looked very flat. And then when Washington, kind of been their guard.
Yeah.
Kind of been their I don't know if he's their best player, because I think Liddell's is their best all around player, but Washington's definitely, they kind of run on him. He's the, he takes a lot of bad shots here, and everybody makes a lot of those shots, and he wasn't making any shots. I think he shot like look at the box score here. 7 to 21. So I mean, he wasn't making any shots, and but to me, they just looked, the defense looked bad. I mean, so many. It just seemed like easy buckets. It looked like for the other team, for Oral Roberts, it was they weren't having to work near as hard as Ohio State was having to work for their points, and it just. I kept on thinking the whole time watching it that eventually Ohio State's going to go on one of their runs, and they're going to just blow the doors off this place, and it's going to be a 15-point win for them. And it just never kept happening. And Oral Roberts game, and credit to them, they kept making shots and they stayed right in it. And it seemed like they had an answer for everything that Ohio State did, and they never let Ohio State go on one of those runs. And basketball is a game of runs. And if you can cut down, especially a team like Ohio State that seems like they go on those 10, 12, 15, 14-point runs, you can take those away from them and stop them from that. And that was give you a chance to win.
With Oral Roberts, they had that kid Asmus, right? Mm-hmm. Even though it looks completely not like it's spelled. Mm-hmm. But let's kind of give credit to them, because the kid led the nation in scoring, and has a very pretty shot. I mean, when he has range when he walks in the gym. But one of the things that even watching that game was even the announcers were like, well, this team, shoots very well. They want to get you running because their defense blows. And that's one of the things, to get back to your point, was I was like, all right, Ohio State's going to go on a run. They're going to get it down to their bigs. They're going to run their game. They're going to do, and they're just going to. It's one of those, kind of like let's say like a Michigan, like a football reference, like Michigan and Western. That eventually the better. Yeah. Athletes, the bigger athletes.
The talent's going to prevail. Sooner or later, it's going to.
And it didn't. Mm-hmm. And it didn't. And kind of like this Loyola Chicago Illinois game. It's 39-31. Chicago's up right now, and it's probably 5 minutes into the second half. This is kind of the same situation. It's like, all right, this is where Coburn, which he's taking over the game right now as we speak. This is what I kind of was was waiting for Ohio State to do, and they never did. Mm-hmm. They never did. Mm-hmm. So,
but that's the great part about this tournament. Yeah, that's and it happens every single year. Every year you can talk about a team that a lot of people had them picked to go to the championship, or a lot of people had them to go to the Final Four, and they get knocked out. I mean, we talk. 2018 was Virginia. Virginia, the number one team. Yeah. They were the number one overall team in the tournament, and they get knocked out by. I don't even remember who it was. It was 16. It was the first time a 16 had ever taken out the game wasn't even close the whole time. And I remember watching it and being like, okay, sooner or later Virginia, they're going to get it going. They're going to go on this crazy run, and it was like, okay, I said this when there was start of the second half. Now I'm saying this again, and there's only 15 minutes left. Now I'm saying it again. There's only 10 minutes left. Okay, now they're out of time. Now they're not coming back. And it seems like we talk about this happening either once, maybe twice. I think it was one year where it happened about 5 times in the tournament. Yes. That's quite a while ago, but that's what makes this tournament so exciting. Is you think of you think of the NBA playoffs, and you think of Major League Baseball in the playoffs. You play a series against these teams. You get to play them 7 times or 5 times or even 3 times, and so you can afford to have that off night. In this tournament, you don't. If you have an off night, you're packing your shit and you come back next year. You're done. Doesn't matter.
And that kind of goes back to my point when obviously it wasn't last week. I think it was the week before, when we were talking about how if you look at all the really really good dominant teams this year, they have big men down on the blocks. Mm-hmm. That game can travel wherever. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to lose a game when you have that a presence of that big presence down there. Whereas you're a team that relies on a 3-point shot, your whole offense is built around that. But that's Oral Roberts' game. Mm-hmm. They have many kids that can shoot the lights out, and their game played yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. Their game played, and it was Friday. Friday they played, and Ohio State's didn't. Ohio State's didn't. And as we look down here, I mean, there was that wasn't the only upset out there. I mean, there was. Let's see here. We already talked about. No, that was Georgia Tech. Not. Let's see here. Wisconsin, North Carolina. That was a great game.
Yeah,
that was a great game, and that was one of the games that I won pretty big on, and that and the Rutgers game, and I want to say that listening to one of the announcers, this wasn't. This is after Selection Sunday. Is that don't take Wisconsin's win-loss record into account because they played the hardest schedule of anyone in the nation.
Yep. A lot harder schedule than what North Carolina played.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And they were kind of talking about leading up into this game that this was a game where they thought North Carolina was playing very well down the stretch and that Wisconsin would have a hard time with Carolina's size and they would be able to out-physical them. Big Ten teams are not going to get out-physical.
Exactly.
They might not be able to make enough shots to win games, but when it comes to defense and the physicalness, there is no comparison. Any other conference, they can't compare to the Big Ten. And I think that kind of played a factor in, and I mean, I know if people that are listening that are not a Big Ten fan, they're probably going to be like, 2K, shut the fuck up. You say this all the time about the Big Ten, but
it's true.
I'm not trying to give an excuse out for Friday because I mean let's just be honest. There's a lot of teams that for the Big Ten that didn't show up. You talk about Ohio State. We talk about Michigan State.
Purdue.
Purdue. You ever think maybe they're just fucking tired?
Could be.
You know, when's the last time these teams have had a day or had a game off? You know, these other schools that are coming in from these other conferences, they haven't played against anybody. Mm-hmm. You know, and so for this, the basically the knockout drag out that these teams from the Big Ten have been doing for the last month, and then they went into the conference tournament. These teams are probably tired.
On top of that, too, the one thing that's always kind of when you talk about the Big Ten going into a slump or not presenting well in the tournament is that there's a lot of times where they get into foul trouble just because their style is banging and clanging, and if they get a referee squad that's being very nitpicky, you can see a lot of these bigs getting into foul trouble early, and then that takes them completely out of their game. So that's one other thing, and I'm not saying that happened. I'm not saying that happened, but yeah, Wisconsin just dominated North Carolina, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time Roy Williams has been bounced this early in the tournament. So another, you know, him and Izzo were kind of walking that line, and like we already, you know, there's no Coach K, there's no Kentucky, there's no, for the first time I think in like 150 years or something like that, but. To kind of go off on that point, I was actually shocked that Duke didn't at least get a playing game, especially with the Duke name, Coach K behind him. The way they were playing leading up to the COVID thing, or the C word thing, because if we say that, YouTube doesn't like it. So, but yeah, as well as I was actually disappointed that they couldn't continue, even though I'm not a Duke fan. Coach K has done his thing. He's deserved everything that he's done. And for them to not get in because of that, just because of their name, who they are.
I mean, they couldn't afford to have anything like that happen because they were already borderline. They really needed to go into the ACC tournament and win a couple games.
Win the whole thing.
Yeah, to have an opportunity to get into it, and, you know, it didn't happen.
Well, you know as well as I do, when it comes down to this, a lot of times it's name.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at talking about change the sport to football, and you talk about the bowl game, and I mean, if you're a school that travels and the fans show up,
Notre Dame,
you're gonna get into some of these bigger bowl games because at
I'll
the
be
end
the
of the
first
day,
to admit it. Yeah.
Money talks.
Yeah, when it comes to that, I'll be the first to admit it because we played in games that we had no business being in, but. It just kind of scrolling down here. Rutgers had a great showing against Clemson. That was a 10-7. Syracuse was an 11. I didn't see this one coming. San Diego State, Syracuse, totally missed on that one. Let's see here. And West Virginia won. Let's see on Saturday. Like we already touched on Georgetown, that was very disappointing. Very disappointing. My kind of dark horse pick, Florida State, had all they can handle with UNC Greensboro.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas had their hands full with East Washington. I did throw some money on Bonaventure just because the kind of history there. LSU kind of handled them very, very well. Like we already talked about Michigan and Texas Southern, that was 82-66. Texas Southern never really was in that game. Another hot button one that was that had a lot of people thinking was Drake and USC. USC kind of handled them rather handily, I guess. And Iowa, another Big Ten team that handled their business against Grand Canyon. Maryland, sneaky 10-7.
That was a big win for the Big Ten there.
Yes, and that was one of the games that I just took the money line on. Won that one. Ohio over Virginia. This was now wasn't it Virginia that lost their point guard or like their main dude?
Mm-hmm.
That was one that garnered a lot of betting attention. I did last minute throw some money on the Ohio
There was
money
a
line.
lot of people that went Ohio on this. Virginia was coming off of the C word and also had so they were off for a couple weeks there, and kind of different from like Michigan's situation. Michigan went on that break, but nobody ever actually had it.
Yeah.
To where there were some kids on Virginia that actually had it, so they weren't able to do anything at all. Getting together, so it was bad timing. It's been a weird season. You just feel. I mean, you talk about that happening to them, but then last night it was with the Oregon VCU game. Doesn't even get played. I mean, you can't help but just feel awful for VCU and how they didn't even get a chance. I mean, these kids, this is what they play for all season long. This is what they commit to a college for, to go into and try to be able to have the opportunity to compete in this tournament and to get there and then not be able to play. It's sad.
Yeah, it is. It is. And especially as being such a highly so it with VCU that really sucks. It really sucks. It did. It shocked everybody. And I remember we were watching the Maryland game I think last night, and right after that that's when that decision came down. So kind of it does really suck. Gonzaga handled their business against Norfolk State. I don't think anyone had that being a shocker. Another shocker is UCLA over BYU. That we talked about UCLA beating Michigan State to even get into the tournament, and then they come in and drop the L on BYU, which was huge. I can't remember the last time UCLA's been this far in a tournament. I'm sure there's going to be someone that's going to correct me, but seems like Ed O'Bannon. I mean that's the last time I remember UCLA being good, and that was 12 years ago, 15 years ago. So they're definitely, and that new coach and that new regime that they have in, I think he's the right guy for the job because, I mean, obviously he has these boys playing well. And I still think if they continue this, obviously, recruiting is going to get better. I mean, you're in the state of California, for Christ's sake. If you can't recruit the state of California, it's not like USC is getting them all. Where are they going? Out of state.
Yeah.
Out of state. So, and the Pac-12 has not been the conference of champions.
I know, but it's pissing me off because they've looked good in this tournament.
Really
I mean,
really
Colorado just completely destroyed Georgetown.
Yes.
And then Oregon, obviously they didn't play, so they move on.
Maybe Bill Russell's onto something.
USC. I mean, there was a lot of people saying that Drake was going to give them a run for their money and possibly win that game. And USC, I don't think there was ever any doubt watching that game that USC wasn't going to win. So yeah, it sucks, and I don't want to. And I hate to say it because I fucking hate.
Me too.
I hate conference of championship champions bullshit, and I hate Bill Walton. I don't even want to I can't believe I just said his fucking name. But damn, I mean,
I would rather listen to Joe Buck than that.
absolutely, not even a question.
No, everyone knows my great love affair with Joe Buck. But to kind of wrap up Saturday, I mean, Abigail Christian beats Texas. 14 seed beating a 3 seed. So we've pretty much seen the whole gamut run so far. I mean, no one. I mean, granted, there's been, Gonzaga was a blowout. Michigan pretty much was wire to wire, but there really hasn't been. If you remember years back, there was always, Duke was number one, and they'd win by 40. North Carolina would be a number one seed, they'd win by 30. There really hasn't been, aside from just a couple games that you really don't. You have to watch. You have to watch, and to kind of put a bow on that so far. If you guys haven't watched any of the games, Buffalo Wild Wings has put if you order through their app, which this is not sponsored, B-dubs, if you want to sponsor us, we'd love. See, we just mentioned it, and their ad comes on right now. We both love wings. We both love fries. Both love beers. So the head of PR, if you guys want to get a hold of us, you can reach us at turbo2ks@gmail.com, and we'll definitely talk sponsorship. But that being said, if you order through their app, if the game goes to overtime, you have a chance to win 6 boneless wings, 2Ks. The first day the first day including the playing games, because like we already said, the Michigan State game was a overtime game. They've been 4 overtime games.
The first game that was played on Friday of the actual tournament, Florida and Virginia Tech, that game went to overtime.
So B-dubs has been putting out a lot of free wings. I don't think they really planned on that to begin with, but it is what it is. So if you guys are interested in that, go ahead and order through that. Now, 2Ks, let's move on to today, because today kind of wraps up the tournament until next weekend.
Not tomorrow. We get to go. We get to do all this stuff tomorrow. Yeah. Monday also.
Fuck me.
Yeah, all the teams that won yesterday.
See, having it on Thursday fucks me up.
You should have worked on Thursday and then taken a Friday and Monday off.
I see that, man. Just when I'm like, all right, I have this figured out. Shit, you know what? Next year. But one game that jumps off the page, and it's the next game at 2:40, is Wisconsin and Baylor. Wisconsin and Baylor. I mean, it's going to be a great game.
Yeah.
This is another one that might go to overtime. I mean, these teams are very, very similar. Very similar. And even though I obviously have to stick with my Baylor pick because that's who I have in my bracket to kind of separate me from everybody else. But they have Baylor as a 6.5 point favorite. Wow. I think it's going to be a closer game than that. I don't see Baylor having that big of a lead when it comes to the end. Just because, like we said, this is, this is the perfect game, 2Ks. We've been preaching how strong the Big Ten is, and right behind them is the Big 12. This game right here features 2 of the best teams in each one of those divisions, each one of those conferences. And just like we said, Wisconsin's record is 18-12. Baylor's record is 23-2. I have a very, very good feeling in those 12 losses that Wisconsin has. Those probably, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 8 of those 12 are better teams than what Baylor faced in the Big 12. So it's going to be the Big Ten ground and pound. Baylor can shoot from anywhere. They're a 1 seed for a reason, because they're one of the most complete teams in the country.
And that's what Wisconsin's going to have to do, is they're going to have to muck it up. They're going to have to play the Big Ten physical style and try to slow things down, because if they try to get into a shootout with Baylor,
they're going to lose.
Baylor's guards, I mean, their guards are the best in the nation. They have 4 of them. I mean, and they really don't lose anything with any of the 4. And that's where they're so talented. But if Wisconsin can play, kind of their inside-out game and use their bigs I gotta say Wisconsin's bigs, they have the advantage there.
Oh yeah.
So if they can slow things down and keep this into more of a half court game and don't get into the running and gunning like what Baylor's going to want to do and control the tempo of it, yeah, Wisconsin can win this game. They're a good enough team.
If they can keep Baylor under 60, I think they have an extremely good chance to win.
Yep.
Extremely good
I would say
chance
if they keep it under 60, if they keep it in that 50, 60 range, Wisconsin will be the team that wins.
Yes.
If the game gets in the 70s and 80s, though, Wisconsin doesn't have a chance.
Unless, like I said, unless Wisconsin is just draining everything and not turning the ball over and playing an extremely tight and clean game. But yeah, it's going to depend on the points. It's going to depend on the points.
Another game that's intriguing to me though is that West Virginia Syracuse matchup. I mean, I think there's no question that West Virginia is the better team there. I mean, obviously you got a 3 seed and 11 seed, but Syracuse they run that. West Virginia struggles to score. They're not a very they're not a great scoring team, and they're not a great shooting team. And Syracuse playing that long zone. They're gonna force West Virginia to have to beat them from the perimeter.
Two Hall of Fame coaches going head to head.
Yeah, and it would not shock me if Syracuse wins that game.
Well, that and Billy Boeheim, I think he's kind of the catalyst behind that whole Syracuse team. And if he can kind of take the game over, which he's done.
Absolutely,
he's done. It could with Huggins He always has that badass team. However, they lose some games that they should. And like I said, you've got two Hall of Fame coaches. You're right. That is going to be a great game. I'm keeping an eye on Oral Roberts in Florida. See if Oral Roberts can keep that vibe going. You know, I'm not comparing Asmus to Steph Curry quite yet. But there are some similarities. I mean, size-wise, even though A. Smith is a little bit taller, a little bit thicker, but not the biggest kid in the world, he can shoot from anywhere. So I can see how people are drawing comparisons to him. Like I said, is it a little early for that? Sure, but getting back to kind of what we said last year, without having a tournament, without this tournament, I wouldn't know who this kid is. So this is again. One of the reasons why this is such a cool ass thing is we get to see players like A. Smith, even though I'm pretty sure there's a B in there somewhere, but it's pronounced A. Smith, and just we get to see these featured players where we wouldn't have. So
yeah, I look at tonight's matchup too between Oregon State, Oklahoma State. I think it's going to be a great game. Oregon State has been playing really, really well, and I mean, you look at some of the teams that they've beat, especially just look into their conference tournament where they took out Colorado and Oregon, two teams that have looked like or basically the powerhouse of the Pac-12, and they were able to, and they took them out pretty single-handedly. Also, Oklahoma State didn't look that great Friday night. Well, Cunningham didn't look very good.
Awful.
And
I mean, he what did he have 1 point in the first half and ended up getting maybe 15. But you're right, he was very uncharacteristic. I mean, he's definitely had bad first halves and then come back and dropped 20 in the second half and kind of took the game over where he didn't. And luckily this is one of the things that I talked about last week was thankfully he has a supporting cast now. Whereas before early in the year it was up to him to decide if they were winning or losing. So yeah, let's see if he settles in and can have a better game. But I do think it speaks very highly of his supporting cast that they were able to pull it together, and because they could have easily lost that game, But you're right, it was very, very uncharacteristic, Mr. Cunningham, because like we said, he's
been the best player in the nation all year.
Yep, him and Luka Garza, and Garza was Garza the first game. And looking at Monday,
the only thing I say about Oregon State, and I actually think Oregon State's going to win tonight. I think they're going to pull that upset. In that, they were a 12 seed. They had to win games down the stretch to even be in this tournament, be in this conversation. I know for a lot they were on Lunardi's list as one of the last 4 teams out. For a lot of it. And then when they close out the season and they beat UCLA, Oregon, and Colorado 3 games in a row,
it's a huge game.
Gets them into the tournament. You know, they're playing. I would say I haven't watched a lot of Oregon State basketball all season long, but to say that to see that and they won those 3 games and then they snuck in as a 12 seed. They're playing very good basketball. They knocked out a very good Tennessee team pretty single-handedly in the first round of this tournament.
Oh, they beat the shit out of Tennessee.
Yeah,
Tennessee was never in the game.
To get Oklahoma State, I think Oregon State's going to pull it off. I think it's going to be an upset.
You got 2 very hot teams going at each one another. Mm-hmm. So you're right. It's a game that could go either way, and it wouldn't shock me if either team won. With either team won. And sneaky matchup: LSU and Michigan on Monday.
Yeah, Michigan better be ready for that one because LSU has. I'm having to look it up real quick. The Cameron Thomas, another freshman, and everybody talks about Cunningham. This Thomas kid, this Thomas kid he's one of the best, if he's not the best freshman in the nation right now, he's right there. He's right, and he's in that conversation. Very good scorer. Yeah, Michigan's going to have their hands full.
It's a sneaky matchup, and
to me with Michigan, it is you know what you're going to get out of Wagner defensively. He's got to step up for them offensively now and kind of make up for.
He didn't have a very good offensive day. That was probably the only. If you want to nitpick and be, find a weak spot, that was his shot just wasn't falling. Everybody else's was.
Yeah. So and he's one to me that's going to have to step up and start scoring some more. Because Michigan doesn't have that. They haven't had the guy all season that's going to average 20 points. They got 4 guys that are going to average 13, 14 points a game. Yeah. And so they have so much depth, and it can be somebody else every single night. Well, you take Livers out of that, and Livers was their leading scorer, I think, with like 14.5 points a game. Yeah. You take him out of there, and he's not there anymore. Somebody's got to step up, and to me, in my opinion, the most talented player that they have is Wagner. Mm-hmm. He can't score 10, 11 points. He's in this tournament. He's going to have games where he can go and get 20 points because they're going to run into some opponents where they're going to have to score, and he's going to. He's the most talented player on that team. He's on a lot of games. He's the most talented player on the floor. Mm-hmm. We know what he can do defensively. His defense never, he's always there. Offensively, though, he's got to step up in this tournament if Michigan's going to have a chance to, to make some noise and get to make a Final Four run. Unfortunately, the loss of Livers
is he a freshman?
Sophomore.
Yep. Because I think he's a better player than his brother.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But his brother had that more savage mentality.
Oh yeah, but his brother didn't get that until his junior year. His first 2 years at Michigan, he was kind of unexistent. He didn't even really know he was there. And then his junior year, he kind of had his coming out party, and then his senior year,
definitely came out of his shell. It was just one of the most complete players in the nation. Quietly. But yeah, I think this Wagner's better than his brother. He just needs that confidence, that take over a game, fuck you, eat my ass. This is my game, and everything's gonna run through me.
Yeah, everything to me with him is just offensively. He's still not a great shooter. He's a good shooter, but he's more of a streak shooter. He seems like when he hits, he'll hit 4 or 5 in a row, but he misses a lot. He's not a great shooter yet.
First round game was a prime example of that.
Defensively, he's way ahead of you don't see a lot of sophomores that can defend like him, and he's so long and lanky. Out of all these kids that Michigan has, he's the best, NBA prospect as far as he's 6'9". He plays a guard at 6'9". He can defend. He can defend all positions on the court. Yeah. But until he gets better offensively, until he becomes a better shooter, he's not. That's what's holding him back from being a great player at this point.
A more complete shooter because he's got a beautiful stroke. He can hit it from anywhere on the floor. You see, especially a lot of young guys, they'll be either corner shooters or top of the key shooters. He can do it from anywhere.
And I just hope with him, he's not. He doesn't. You see it happen so many times in basketball where these kids I think that they get a lot of false information leading into the draft where you're going to be a top 10 pick or you're going to be a top 15 pick and the potential. And then they go, and then next thing you know, 5-6 years later, they're playing overseas, and you kind of totally forget about who they are. I hope that he's one that doesn't get caught up in that, and he stays at least one more year at Michigan, because I think he really needs it, because offensively his game is not, pro. He's not a pro caliber player right now. I mean, can he make it on a team? Absolutely. But is he going to be
an impact player?
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not at that point. But give him another year or two in college, and they're going to develop that shot, and he's going to. And then you're talking about, leaving right now. And I know everybody wants to get paid, and everybody wants that money, but you leave now, and you're maybe a middle to more likely late first round pick.
Yeah.
Who's to say 2 years from now you can't be a lottery pick? You can't, or you can't be up there in the top 5. I mean, he's got the potential to get to that point. Absolutely, he's 6'9" and playing as a guard, and I hope he doesn't get caught into, that leaving early. That has happened to a lot of players that have been at Michigan, especially here in the last, 5-6 years.
I think having Juwan Howard being in his ear, I think is going to mean a lot. And not just him, but any of those kids on that team. If anyone, I would take his opinion over a scout any day. Okay, why? Because a scout 9 times out of 10 never fucking played in the NBA. Last I checked, Juwan Howard played a lot of years. Has a ring, has at least one ring, right? He won one when Shaq and D Wade and all those were in Miami. So, guy's been an NBA champion.
Illinois is going to fuck around and lose this game.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Loyola and their number one fan is just, it's a very cool story. She's over 100 years old.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well,
for her to actually be there and watch it is even better. Because and then again, having everything in Indiana, she lives in Chicago, so it's definitely not that far away.
Just 3 years ago when they made their run, or 4 years?
3 years ago.
Michigan's the one that beat them in the Final Four. Because then Michigan got wiped out by Villanova, which that Villanova team was fucking sick.
Oh, they were good. But you're right. I mean, it's 59-48 with just under 5 minutes to go.
We were talking about it earlier. You keep on thinking, okay, the better the talent's going to prevail, and they're going to go on this run. And I've been watching it on my phone as we've been talking.
This is an 8-1 matchup, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't even like a 1 or even like a 2-15. So this is you can't just throw out Loyola just because Illinois has been a powerhouse team this year, and Coburn has every time I look up he's doing that. So I'm not even sure how they're losing, to be honest with you. Coburn must have at least 35 of their 48 points. It just seems like it. But yeah, just getting back to what we said, this is one of the best times of the year because you never fucking know. You never know. You never know. And this game could, granted, in basketball time, there's 4 minutes and 25 seconds. That's an eternity. Yeah. An eternity. And they're...
but you look at 4 minutes to go, and Illinois has 48, maybe 49 points, depending on what happens with this free throw.
Very low.
You got to score more points than that. You're a number 1 seed.
Should be up around 70.
Yes, and you fuck around and you leave yourself in the situation where there's 4 minutes to go in this game and you're just breaking the 50 mark. Yeah. It's on you.
Yeah, most everyone would expect this score to be flipped, to be honest with you, but we'll see. We'll see where. Nice stash, bro. But
you see the handlebar stash that is it Timmy or Time from Gonzaga is rocking right now? Holy shit.
Yes, that mustache needs its own Facebook page.
And I've ripped on Gonzaga this year just because they haven't played against anybody. Nope. Other than the first month of the season. They haven't really played it. They're obviously the conference that they play. And I know that last night they're playing against a 16 seed, and that team was ass. Yeah. But that Gonzaga team can flat out play. When you just watching them play, doesn't matter who the opponent is. I was like, there was times just watching them, and the way that they move the ball, and everybody touches it, and just you just have to see it, and just watching it, it's just like my jaw had to have just been wide open the whole time. Like, damn, this team can flat out play. So I look forward to some of the future matchups with them.
Me too.
Because they're going to start playing against some better teams. We're going to see them against Oklahoma tomorrow. A better opponent. So
I just want to see how good they are.
Yeah.
It's the
because we were screwed. We didn't get to watch them. Earlier in the season they were supposed to play against Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't happen because of the C word. And so I think everybody wanted to see those games. We wanted to see. I mean, who doesn't want to see possibly the top 2 teams in the nation square off against each other first week of the season or second week of the season, and it didn't happen. So that's the only knock I have on Gonzaga. They just haven't really necessarily played anybody other than the first couple weeks of the season, when everybody's still trying to kind of find their identity.
Yep, and I think everyone is kind of we're not the only ones that are saying that. There's plenty of people chomping at the bit that want to see how exactly good this team is. Do they have the talent and the drive and everything to go undefeated? Because that's a huge storyline that we haven't even talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Could they possibly go undefeated? Mm-hmm. And it's been since Indiana, I think like 35 years ago or something, they've ran the gamut and went undefeated. And for those purists that are out there, which I know there's going to be the guy, well, yeah, they're undefeated, but they didn't play anybody. Fuck, they're playing in the same tournament as everybody else. And to me, to get to the point of the tournament undefeated is one thing. We've seen it happen a handful of times. Usually, about once every couple of years, we'll see even a Coach Cal team or a Duke team that's undefeated get to the tournament, and obviously they haven't won it. So to use the argument that they haven't played anybody, they get into the tournament undefeated, I think is a null and void conversation. It's how you play once you get into the tournament. So I can't remember when I obviously didn't pick them to win, but I'm trying to remember when I picked them to lose. I want to say it was going into the Final Four, and I can't remember who I had beating them, but it's definitely a like you said. I caught part of that Gonzaga game, and granted, a 16 seed, they should dominate them, but everything was so crisp. Again, maybe because it was against the 16 seed and they're supposed to do that, but it's going to be interesting to see going forward how exactly good that team is. Mm-hmm. And like you said, Illinois is going to fuck around and lose this game. Mm-hmm. They're going to lose this game. Unless something miraculous happens, they're going to lose this game. Down 11, 3:48 to go. And I've been kind of keeping an eye on it, and they are running everything through Coburn, which is fine. But with this amount of time, you need to be chipping away more than 2 points at a time or just a touch in the paint. And then you're relying on him to be an excellent, which he is an above average free throw shooter. I'll give him that. The kid's a beast. But yeah, season field goal percentage 54.1, and you're putting all your eggs in the basket that he can. His free throw shooting ability is going to bring you out of this game. Mm-hmm. Which, like I said, coming down to it, he's been doing very, very well. But Loyola is just taking it to him. So something to keep an eye on. It's a 9-point lead. Is it out of reach? Nope. But highly, highly unlikely, especially when Loyola has made 5 of their last 6 field goal attempts, and for whatever reason, they just tackled one another. So I'm not sure what the hell that was all about. But 2Ks, we're at that hour mark. Is there anything, any bows we need to tie on, any T's we need to cross, I's that are dotted? Like I said, I'm really looking forward to this. I didn't think this Illinois game was going to be maybe even remotely close. Mm-hmm. So I can only imagine with the Baylor Wisconsin game, I think that's going to be a knockdown drag out. I'm so stoked to watch that game. But is there anything else we need to take care of?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm looking forward to some of these games today that we've talked about. I mean, obviously, first game of the day, and
huge upset.
I would say maybe other than Gonzaga might be the team that I've seen most people pick to win in their brackets, like all around TV and everything. I know probably in our challenge, Illinois is probably the most popular team
by far.
So, first game of the second round, and when we're possibly losing that team, and as it looks right now, we are going to lose that team.
Which is going to play into my hand extremely, extremely well. Like I said, that Coburn has to have. That's probably point 20, I think, or something close to that out of their 54.
Yeah,
and
that's what's been so good for Illinois down the stretch of this season. Obviously he's been good, but their guards have been so good and stepping up. And today
I haven't seen him shoot one jump shot in the last 3-4 minutes of gameplay. So, well, 2K Crew, we'll get you out on that. Enjoy the rest of the games. I'm sure you guys will be glued to the TV just like we are. Have a great week. And Jim Rome, as always, we're coming for you.